Okay, welcome to Stronger Everyday podcast with Fitness Beast Athletics. Today, I'm introducing Harveel here, which I know I did pronounce properly.
No, you did. You did.
Oh, yay. And why I'm interviewing Harveel today is because she went through a very similar experience as I did with multiple sclerosis. And from everything I've been able to gather, using fitness to ground herself and really learn about her body and ways to kind of mitigate whatever symptoms that MS might have been causing. I don't know the extent of your story, but with that, I'll leave it to you. Let's go.
Oh, thanks, David. Thank you for, getting in touch on social media and stuff and wanting to interview me. I was like, oh wow, like this is like a global audience now.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm Harveel. I was diagnosed with relapsing remitting MS. It'll be 11 years this year. So in October, it took a few months. Never quite know when those dates are, but I've got some real
Yeah.
significant dates of like, when you have your MRI and you get the results, and then you've got
Yeah.
to wait a few months to see a neurologist, and then they've got to officially diagnose you, and then you
Yeah.
got to go and see your specialist care team, etc., etc. So, this year will be my 11th year, which is crazy because when I think about it, I was thinking how am I going to get through the next 11 days, let alone 11 years. But here we
Yeah.
are, and it's all good. But yeah, so yeah, my journey. So at the time, I had a few things. So I had a few what I would call like symptoms over prior to the before I got diagnosed. So like maybe the onset of them was maybe a couple of years before, so I was kind of in and out. The
Okay.
doctors with various things. Sometimes it would be numbness in my hands, and it would just come and go. So I think the doctors would just kind of just mention other conditions that probably MS would like mimic, I guess. So they would say it'd probably a carpal tunnel syndrome in my hands, and they would just say, just see how you get on. And then a few months passed by, and then I had like a burning sensation on my waistline, and then went
Okay.
in and they were like, oh, you probably got shingles, so you're going to come out in a rash. And then 3 weeks went by, there was no rash, but the excruciating pain was still there. um I remember sitting at work thinking I can't even sit here because anything that like just even brushes past it or any, because it was just on my waistline where like you sort of your the waistline of your trouser or something would
Mhm.
sit, and or your t-shirt would like brush past it, and it would just be excruciating pain, like
Oh,
just
wow.
randomly. And I was thinking, oh God, like because you can't see anything there, so you're thinking, what the hell is this? Anyway, and then I went back and they were like, oh, it's probably post-herpetic neuralgia. You're probably one of the lucky ones. You fought the infection internally. It hasn't really like surfaced on the outside. Okay, cool. A few months later, then I started getting a bit of tingling in my legs and stuff. They didn't feel too good. And they were just, to be honest, they were just really, how can I explain it? I think anyone with MS, if they were listening, you just know you just have some really weird stuff go on in your body, just
Yeah.
weird. And it was just weirdness. That's the only way I could, really hard to explain to someone what was going
Yeah.
on with all these different symptoms. So over that time, what I realize now, I also had the MS hug, and I also had the, is it called Le Hermit? So like when you kind
Yeah.
of, I can never know if it's Le Hermits or Le Hermites, but it's like when you put your chin down to your chest and you get an electric shock down your back. That was a
Yeah.
real common one for me because I remember every day I used to sit there at my desk thinking, oh, I wonder if it'll happen again. So I just do that, and it happened every time,
Yeah.
like it never stopped, and it went on for ages. That did. So I had all these various symptoms in and at the doctors. They're probably going, what the hell are you on about? And then it
Can
wasn't, and yeah, go on, carry on.
I was just gonna
Yeah.
ask, like, for a lot of people who might be listening and they don't know the symptoms of MS, and because a lot of symptoms can be so different between people with MS, and I know the MS hug is one that is often confused for other things. Like, it could be
Mm.
like, depending on how severe, it could be like a heart attack in some cases. But like, what was it? What was it to
So
you? Like, what were your symptoms with that?
I mentioned this to a friend the other day because we were just on a walk and we were chatting, and I the only, like, it's so weird, but I remember even Googling it, and it's probably the weirdest thing that I've ever Googled. Is I was like feeling like I've got a rugby ball shoved up my
Okay.
rib cage. So like I felt like I had a rugby ball up my rib
Yeah.
cage and it was just stuck there. But I don't ask me why I thought it was a rugby. But that's the feeling that I had. Like that was the sensation I was getting. It was of that size, that shape
Oh wow.
inside my rib cage. And all I wanted to do was just take the ball out. Like, oh my God,
Yeah.
it's so uncomfortable. I need to just get rid of this ball. Like, but that's the only way I could describe it. So
Okay.
like I had this ball and like I think, at times I just have like real shallow breathing. So the only thing that would calm it is that I'm just like breathing and just, but obviously there was nothing there. Now I
Yeah.
realize there was
Yeah.
nothing there.
Yeah.
And I can't say I had it like, for weeks on end. It was a real feeling that it would come on and it would
Mhm.
be there for a few hours and then it would subside and then I wouldn't have it for a few days and then it would just come on again. So yeah, a lot of hot water bottles around these places, thinking
Yeah.
that I've probably just done something, pulled a muscle, got some nerve pain, all those kind of
Yeah.
things that you think of. But I have read that like you said, the MS hug, I think sometimes it's very difficult to define as a symptom because for some people it feels like, I don't know, somebody's wrapped a belt around them and they're just
Mhm.
pulling it tighter and tighter.
Yeah.
For some people, they think that, something's crushing them. And like you said, for some people, they actually feel like it's probably an onset of a heart attack or something. So I think there's
Yeah.
loads of different symptoms. And I think generally it's just tightness, isn't it, in
Yeah.
that area
Yeah.
around your chest. So yeah, I would say a lot of my symptoms and flare-ups have probably happened pre-diagnosis, leading
Mhm.
up to the diagnosis, if that makes
Yeah.
sense. So
A
a
hundred
lot of,
percent.
yeah,
Yeah.
stuff that I didn't even know, and now I can put a label against it, put a name to it, that I know what it was. But yeah, so after all of that, I started getting numbness on the front of my feet. That's how it started. I remember day one, numbness, like thinking this is, this doesn't feel right.
Kind
And
of
then
like you
that
fell asleep on them, I guess.
yeah,
Yeah.
just a bit like that. And then I just remember that was like day one, and then day two, it just got worse. So that was when it was like progressively getting worse day by day, actually. So
Mhm.
this is when I would say I had my biggest relapse, and the numbness just got worse. It was on my left leg, my left foot, up my leg, and then I just couldn't really feel like my knees. My knees felt really funny. My
Okay.
left knee still does. I don't think my left knee has never really gone back to what it was pre-diagnosis. So that's
Okay.
probably been the main sort of, what can I say, like, in the grand scheme of things, it's nothing, but that's the little bit that still is my reminder that I've got MS. So yeah, so and then it started affecting my mobility. So I was getting this numbness, this real tightness, lots of sensory symptoms, and then it was affecting my mobility. So I was like limping
Okay.
but not knowing why. Because I was
Yeah.
thinking I haven't hurt my leg, I haven't knocked it anywhere, I wasn't gymming, I was not, I know we're going to chat about fitness today, but you know what?
Yeah.
Fitness was not part of my life
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
before MS. So there was no chance that I would have, banged a kettlebell
Yeah.
against it or, dropped a dumbbell on my foot or anything. So there was no chance of that. So couldn't figure it out again. All I knew is that something it was just getting worse and worse each day. Didn't know what it was. Right, I'm getting this numbness, can't feel my foot in places, can't feel my leg in places. When I walk, they're tingling. When I try and run, I can't run. Like I wouldn't even know, like my brain wouldn't even connect to my legs to try and run. Kind of like it kind of worked its way up my left leg and then it started on my right leg.
Okay.
And then I started going to the chiropractor because I thought maybe I've got a problem with my discs in my back. Because
Yeah.
you're talking to people, you're telling people, and people are going, oh, maybe, have you thought about a chiropractor? Maybe this, maybe that. And so then I went to the and I had been to the chiropractor a few years back actually, because now, and even that, I realized it was MS. So that was like a good few years back before I got diagnosed. I was getting a lot of like sensory feelings in my arms and numbness again. And I remember thinking when I used to pick up shopping bags, like grocery shopping bags, I couldn't carry them for too long. I'd like
Okay.
carry, like even just like picking them up just to walk out of the shop, I'd be like, oh my God, like my grip, like I had no grip and my arms would just ache. And I thought this can't be right. Like, why am I hurt? Like, so it's not even that much weight. Like,
Yeah.
so I think I was going to the chiropractor at that time for a bit and then I had stopped. So then when this happened with my legs, I thought, oh, that had kind of subsided and maybe the chiropractic treatment was helping, so maybe it will help with this. But I think she cut a long story short, I think she knew instantly that there was probably more to it. So
Yeah.
all these times I've been going to the doctors, they didn't think it was necessary for me to have an MRI. I remember one time they even thought, they just said to me, is everything all right at home? And I think maybe they were thinking I was depressed or,
Yeah.
anxious about something, and maybe they were just going to subscribe me some pills. And I was just thinking, I remember walking out that day thinking, do you know what? Maybe it is. Maybe it is in my
Yeah.
head. I don't know. But anyway, I always think, thank God to this chiropractor who she made me do some exercises, probably realized that no matter where I'm putting her leg, she's not in actually in any pain,
Yeah.
but she is walking funny and I'm don't really know the reason for that. So she wrote to my doctor and asked them to book an MRI because to check for herniated discs. But I think deep down she probably thought she probably isn't a herniated disc and it might be something else. And that was it.
Okay.
That was the turning point. So it took me a few months to get there, and then once that MRI took place, they rang me within 24 hours. So it was
Oh,
like
wow.
less than
Okay.
24 hours. I was at work. And then she just asked me, she said, is it good to talk? And then I was like, yep. And then she said, we found some inflammation in your spinal cord and we're going to have to do further MRIs. Because when they did my first MRI, it was just my lumbar spine. I
Okay.
think they found inflammation in the spinal cord. So then they thought they need to do the thoracic and the cervical spine. But I remember when I had the letter, it was thoracic, cervical, and brain MRI. And I just was thinking that's what made me really go, yeah, I suppose I was Dr. Google, just searching everything and
Yeah.
going, what the hell could this be? And then I was thinking it's one of two things. I've either got a spinal tumor or I've got MS because when I was Googling everything, I was coming across a few forums and stuff where people were explaining these really weird, bizarre symptoms, and they were saying they had multiple sclerosis. So there was a little part of me that thought it's going to go, one of two routes,
Yeah.
basically. Yeah, so then I had to wait a few weeks. They did further MRIs, and again, they rang me within a few hours, told me it was suspected MS, and that I would now need to be referred to a neurologist. And then, yeah, I mean, the rest is just history, isn't it? Because then you
Yeah.
just go down that, and you know yourself, you just go down this real, like, you're just going from one road to another,
Yeah.
because it's like we need to do your bloods, we need to do that. It's a bit of a process of elimination. I felt like I went through.
Yeah.
We need to check for this, we need to check for that, we need to check for this, we need to do this, you need to see your neurologist. Your neurologist has to almost have a chat with you. It's just not like one test, is it? It's almost
Yeah.
going, we really need to understand
Yeah.
what your body's feeling right now. And then
That's
yeah, I mean, he diagnosed me with that type of MS, relapsing remitting
yeah.
MS, and then I was then referred to the MS specialist care team. So
Okay.
where I got to see my consultant, meet my consultant, and also meet the MS nurses, so they could explain a little bit what MS meant, what my type of MS meant. It was quite aggressive at that point, which makes sense because I was relapsing because I got
Yeah.
like diagnosed while I was having what I would say was my biggest relapse.
Hmm.
So it was very aggressive at that time. It was a bit of relief because I had a name for it now. I knew what it
Yeah.
was. I was no longer in the dark, but also it was a very it was unheard of in my family. There's no one, not even distantly connected, with MS. And I guess I had heard of MS, but I had only associated, I guess, severe disability, wheelchair. And sorry if that, anyone that might be listening to it probably is in a wheelchair. I guess when you I've got a real different opinion, obviously living with MS over 11 years because I know that one day might be my life. But at the time, it's really hard for me to come to terms and with even looking at a wheelchair, even looking
Yeah,
at a person with disability. And I know that's it's bad, but it was just, I don't want that to be my life. Like that
yeah,
can't be me. And like, no way is that going to be me. So though, you just, everything was negative, everything was just felt difficult. I just felt like, life had dealt me the worst card ever.
yeah,
How am I ever going to get through this? But I mean, on a positive, anyone who is listening, you will, because
yeah,
diagnosis is difficult and it's tough, and no one really tells you how to deal with it, and no, no one, you never learn it. That's the stuff you never learn at
yeah,
school, right? No one
yeah,
says, when the going gets tough, when life deals you a difficult hand,
yeah,
this is how you develop your mental resilience. No one
yeah.
tells you that. So you've got to
Well,
learn that stuff for yourself, don't you?
yeah.
Yeah.
And but even to that point, like at school, where and this is not part of any curriculum. This happens. Well, I'm not sure how much it happens anymore, but like there are bullies, there are like all kinds of things that happen, right? But like you're never taught. I remember when like my journey with MS was less progressive. Like I didn't have really symptoms that I realized at first compared to you. For me, I literally woke up one day and half my body, I couldn't feel a thing. It was completely numb. I could move everything, but I couldn't feel a thing. It wasn't. It looked like I had a stroke. And I was just kind of like,
Wow.
overnight, I'm like, ha and so I tried to walk. I could still, like I said, I could still move everything perfectly. I just didn't know. I couldn't feel that it was actually moving, which is I'm slightly a bit extremist, so I tried doing rock climbing and stuff like that, which I don't recommend to anyone who's going through that because I fell a couple of times. But it's such a interesting kind of way the disease it kind of progresses and how you're supposed to deal with that kind of income, right? Especially because you're dealing not only with the diagnosis that eventually comes afterwards generally, but like you have no idea what's happening to your body. It's because we're not taught about all these things related to the nervous system. And to be honest, I think there'd be too much to teach people about this stuff, right? This stuff happens to you and you're often left alone because even when you try to explain it to someone, it's like, yeah, the front of my feet feel weird because of X, Y, and Z reasons. Like they feel tingly. It's like, okay, walk it off. Or like that there won't be a clear understanding of
No.
how to deal with it, you know?
I think because the spectrum is so wide as well, isn't it?
Yeah,
It's
yeah,
just like you don't know. And even now, and you probably have the same, I still don't know if if I'm ill and body's fighting an infection. I don't know. Is that just the after effects of the infection? Is that what the infection is giving me?
yeah,
Or is that my MS flaring up? It's very difficult to know. And I've got other underlying health conditions as well as a thyroid problem. It's so hard to know.
yeah,
And it's almost like, I don't know, eventually you kind of just stop explaining yourself to someone and you just
yeah,
think, you know what, I've just got to, that part of my life, or maybe I'll just deal with alone. But I'll just show the
yeah,
world like I got this. Like
yeah.
MS isn't gonna MS isn't gonna define me, and MS isn't
No,
gonna stop me from, going after what I want in
yeah.
life. Yeah.
And I love that you said that because even for underlying conditions, like I'm also a type 1 diabetic, right? So like my immune system decided to screw me over a long time ago. And so like I remember thinking I was diagnosed with it because I ended up being at a pub with some friends, and yeah, it wasn't just like a time of drinking and fun. Like it was a really horrible emotional night. Like broke up with my girlfriend.
Oh.
It was a classic. Like
Mm.
I'm 40 this year, so 20 years ago. So like early teen or early teen
Oh, you were
early
very young, very
yeah,
young.
I was early adult, just in my like adulthood. So like I was still coming out of my teenage years, so to speak, going to college, university. And so like it was a whole kerfuffle of stuff that happened, and I had a seizure. I woke up in an ambulance with some of my friends holding me back, saying, "Okay, relax, Dave, relax. We got the ambulance. They're here to deal with you and stuff like that." I'm like, and I just remember thinking. I need to go home. I don't even know why I had that urge to go home. Then they brought me to the hospital. They did the whole MRI and everything. They're like, okay, yeah, you have three lesions in your head and you have a mess. And the head of neurology was like, he saw me for a little while, diagnosed with second progressive, and well, that was that. And I was given like, and I remember thinking, and it aligns with what you said. As soon as they told me that, I was like, I am not gonna let this beat me. Like this is just no. You know, like
Mm,
it was like that gut-wrenching kind of I refuse.
yeah. And
And
I do think you have
yeah,
to make that decision very early on, don't you? Because
yeah,
I always think as well that, I remember, so even though the GP had said to me suspected MS, and but we can't, all the signs are pointing that way, but we can't
yeah.
diagnose you until you've seen a neurologist. But the day I went to see the neurologist, I think I was the last appointment. I'd waited in the
Hmm.
waiting room for hours. I was the last appointment. I went in, and he said, and he said loads of stuff like, if I diagnose you with, MS today, what does that mean for you? What questions do you have? And I had so many. Everything was just, there was just too much going on
Yeah.
right then, and I was thinking, oh my God. And then we'd had a good chat and everything, and he gave me comfort, and he said, you know what, look, you're 32, and you've made it very clear, what you want out of life. And I'm going to make sure, I go and speak to the team tomorrow, and we're going to get you seen, and we'll get you on medication as soon as we can. And we want to help you. So he gave me that real comfort to go,
Hmm.
like he put his hand out, and I felt like there was help then. There was someone, willing to really, like, just be there,
Yeah.
and say, you got this when I needed it most. But I remember thinking, I walked out, I was by myself. I went to the hospital by myself, and I remember walking out of his room, and then there was just like a really long corridor. But obviously the lights were off because it was just on, like, there wasn't anyone else around. And I remember as I'm walking down each corridor, the lights are just coming on. So it's just dark until I've turned a corner, and the
Yeah.
lights come on. It's dark until, and then it was then I was thinking, Harveel, before you walk out of this hospital, you've got to decide today, what direction are you going to take this in, right?
Yeah.
Are you gonna fight it, or are you gonna let MS take its course? Like, what you got to decide today.
Yeah.
And then I remember thinking, I say I got to fight it. And I remember that was it. I was thinking, you know what? There's somebody else that probably sat in that chair, being told that they got 4 weeks to live. Get a grip. That's not you. That's not
Yeah.
you. Do you know what I mean? No
Yeah.
one's saying
100%.
that, your life expectancy has been shortened or cut short or whatever. No one is saying that right now. And actually, I don't know about the wheelchair thing, because it seems like there's a lot of medication and drugs and therapies out there that will help me. So, are you going to fight this or not? And I just thought, I am. I'm going to fight this. I'm not going to let it win. Like,
Yeah.
and it hasn't been easy, don't get me wrong. I think one of the things, and you might get this as well. I think, I only in the last 3 years or so, I have really, really talked more, I've more so talked about my MS journey and my fitness journey, and everything I'm doing to, fight MS on a daily, making sure, MS doesn't win, and talking about it more. And I think it probably seems to them that, oh, like, I got diagnosed and I'm okay. And, she's just doing this. But I think what people don't really see is that in between period, like the middle part
Yeah.
always gets missed, because the middle part is the bit that we don't talk about, do we? We don't
No.
talk about the
Yeah.
middle bit, the bit where it's messy. There's just too many emotions to deal with. There is just too many opinions to deal that you just don't know, and even though you make a decision, I'm going to fight this, it's not easy, because it doesn't mean that just because you decided that day, I'm going to fight this, that now you've got this, and you're you're on the road
Yeah.
to make sure, it's, I guess, 1-0 to me. That
Yeah.
isn't gonna, that doesn't happen overnight, right?
Yeah.
So you've got to do the work. And I think
Yeah.
that, I would say,
And
took the best part of 8 years of,
yeah.
real healing, or
Yeah.
is because there's the acceptance phase, there's the grieving phase, there's the research phase, there's the I've got this, and it's one step forward, but then
Yeah.
it's 10 steps back,
And then there's the
you know,
understanding of all that. Yeah.
because, I went on different types of treatment, and those treatment in their own way had their own side effects, and they caused other health conditions. And so, you know what, somewhere along the line, it feels a bit linear and then it's not
Yeah.
because, nothing in life is, and it's rocky and it's up and down.
Yeah.
And that took the best part of 8 years. And I'd say now I'm at the other end where I'm like, I'm in control. Like I'm in control. MS isn't. I'm in control. But you
Yeah.
know what? For many years, I didn't know, even though I had decided that I was going to take control of this, I didn't actually feel, I didn't feel like I was.
Yeah.
I still felt like MS was and all my
Yeah.
other health conditions were. But I feel now very much I'm in control. And because I am now, I show it. And
Yeah.
that's what I put out there to the public. And that's what I show on my social media. And I think for some people, they just go, right, you're right though. And and I
Yeah.
and I get other people who have MS message me and say, you're shining too much of a positive light on MS, and we're not all like
Yeah.
that, and it's all right for you. And it's kind of like you ain't seen the work I've had to do. You
Ex
haven't seen,
100%.
no, and you've got
100%.
the
Yeah.
same, like, yeah, but and I also know for there's not one day that it doesn't leave me that I might wake up tomorrow, like you said, David, you
Yeah.
literally woke up and half your side was numb and you thought you had a stroke and you didn't know what it was. And
Yeah.
I don't dismiss that. I don't
Yeah.
throw that to the back and go, oh, but that isn't going to be me.
Yeah.
I hope it's not me,
Yeah.
but also I realize that it could be me. Like I do know, and I have to know because that's what keeps me fighting, right?
Yeah.
Because
A
if
hundred
now I
percent.
believed maybe I'm in remission, there is no MS, or I'm okay, then I would just be no, I
Yeah.
wouldn't be trying, and
Exactly.
I wouldn't be
Yeah.
wanting to fight it. So it's very different. And I think that's the bit is really hard to get across on your social media platforms, on any
Yeah.
platform, is when you see people doing really well or they're really well in their journey and they're living well as they can be, you know what? They've done the work to get there.
Yeah.
Like it's been messy for them. It's been
Yeah.
hard. And, somewhere along the line, they've fallen, they've failed, but they've just got back up again and they've just got back up again. And you know what? We don't know the future either. We don't know
Exactly.
tomorrow
Yeah.
because MS is so unpredictable. The thing is, we don't know. So right now, all we can do, me and you both,
Yeah.
we are just finding ways to keep ourselves well, and when something works,
Yeah.
we're going, right, we're not going to let that go, and we're going to
Exactly.
keep doing
Exactly.
more of it,
Yeah.
right? We're going to keep
Yeah.
doing more of it. So everyone goes, oh, you're so obsessed, but it's not. It is, but also it's kind of like
You
I
don't have a choice.
found a
Yeah.
lifeline, right? It's
Yeah.
a
Yeah.
lifeline.
Yeah.
Can't let it go. I can't let
No.
it go. And in a way, it's a blessing and a curse, I guess, right?
Yeah.
MS, that's the only way I can say that. Maybe
Yeah.
some people that don't have a health condition but aren't actually doing anything to keep fit and stay healthy or get in shape, sometimes I think it's just because they've just not been dealt that hand.
Yeah.
They don't, and
Yeah.
they've got no reason. They just haven't found their why.
Yeah.
And and I believe that like this is my why. Whatever I do, whatever I get passionate about, or it, the fitness part has become an obsession or addiction. Why? Because I have MS and I can't let
Yeah.
MS win.
100%. And like it's funny you mentioned that because I remember when when I was first diagnosed, I started a blog, right? Well, that's okay. That's kind of a lie. I published one blog, but the reaction I got from people in my circle, not necessarily close friends, just people who knew other people with MS and stuff like that. I asked them to share my message, but I was angry. Like I wasn't. It wasn't just I was furious because at that point I had already started losing a bit of weight and stuff like that. But like the only study I could find at the time was a study that they did on a group of 20 women. This was again 20 years ago, saying that there was a 30% uptick in them getting multiple sclerosis based on whether they grew up obese throughout which years of their life they were obese and stuff like that, right? So I wrote rather hostile blog post towards myself more than anything else because I was angry at myself for having, you know, reading these studies and going and clicking. I'm like, all this shit I did. I ate badly. I didn't take care of myself. I didn't do any of this garbage. And I got MS. So it kind of like, for me, I think I might have taken it too literally. I'm like, for me, this study is proof that what I did to myself is what caused this to happen. You know what I mean?
Mm,
And so I wrote a very scathing blog. I shared it to a bunch of people, and the most reactions I got were kind of like, "You're an angry person." And I'm like, "Well, yes, I am at the time." And I had one woman saying, "You know what? I'm not going to share this with anyone in my circle who has MS." I'm like, "Why?"
why?
But that's it. And she was like, "Well, because it's very angry, and you're blaming people with MS." And I'm like, Yes and no. I'm blaming them so much as saying if they let themselves be obese like I did, there's a 30% greater chance of them having, according to this study,
Yeah,
MS. And then I'm like, yeah, it might sound accusatory, but if you are obese, you've done that in a majority of cases, you've done that to yourself. Yes, there are medical conditions like PCOS and a whole bunch of other things that could play their role in people not being able to lose weight, but you know, not to sound trite about it, but like you have to put the fork down. And like that's how I was thinking at the time, like because I was so angry at myself for
mm,
having gone through everything. And so like I understand when you're saying that there's a lot of hitches along the way because for me, yes, I was angry. Yes, I was saying this message, but I fully believed in it regardless. But the fact that already then I had so many people going, "Yeah, I don't want to talk to you anymore." I'm like, okay, it is what it is. But having gone through that to where I am now, I'm much more, I understand the symptoms I was feeling. I understand the things that I did to kind of,
yeah.
from my
I think,
perspective,
I
yeah,
guess at that time it was a really big part of your life. You can't think about anything else, right? Because you've
yeah,
just got it's massive, isn't it? It's like that
yeah,
somebody's just giving you this massive weight, and you're like going, oh, what do I do with this?
yeah,
And you
yeah,
can't really think about anything else. But I guess like what you're saying is over time, you know, I guess as you accept the condition, you learn more and more about the condition. You start making it just becomes a part of your life, like
yeah,
everything else, doesn't it?
yeah,
It's just it's just a part of like it's a part of my life. It's not. It is a big part of my life, but it's not as big as I made it out to be at the start of my journey. Same with yourself.
exactly,
Same with
exactly,
anyone who's listening is probably going to go, because I doubt anyone goes, they've been diagnosed with MS and then they just go, oh, okay, and put it to one side and go,
exactly,
oh, well, I've got other stuff to be dealing with, so I'll deal with
yeah,
that later. At that
yeah,
time, it
yeah,
becomes your priority project and you go, what do I do? Right?
yeah.
You got to, if you don't know anything about it, the first thing is going, what the hell is this?
Exactly. And because so many people have so many different symptoms and there's so many different stories behind it, and there's
Yeah.
as much as
Oh, yeah.
as much as there's a global kind of understanding of what the different types of MS do and how they affect people, MS doesn't function like that at all. There are
Mm.
certain elements that, yes, can be somewhat communal as to how most MS people might feel, but it's like people's interpretations of pain is different. People's interpretations of numbness is different.
It's very different.
Exactly.
I don't think I've ever met. I think I know quite a big community of people with MS now, and I can't say that any two people are the same. I wouldn't say them two are the same, or
Yeah.
their onset came on at the same time in their lives at the same age, and
In
they've
the
just
same
been going
way.
through the
Yeah.
motions together, and they've been on the same treatment. It's like it's so varied. Even
Yeah.
treatment and that is so varied that I could be sat in a room with six, seven different MS people with MS with the same strain, but we're all on different drugs. And I think,
Yeah.
oh, how did they make that decision then? Like, how come I
Yeah.
was offered that, and how come you were offered that? And it's a very difficult one to understand, but it's a real snowflake. That's what they say. It's like a
Yeah.
snowflake condition, right? Because no two journeys are the same.
Yeah.
But I think also you have to realize that because of that, you can't compare your journey with someone else's as well. So
Yeah.
although we kind of want to connect with this MS community and likewise yourself, like we built our platforms to connect with people with MS for to kind of tell your story that it might inspire someone else's, but also I wanted to find other people like yourself that have lived with it for many years and are equally inspirational and
Yeah.
gives me inspiration that if somebody's lived with it for X amount of years, with that type of MS, or somebody's been doing fitness for this many years, and they managed to get into bodybuilding and have a transformation, and really look after themselves, anything, or because we've got people who compete in the Olympics that live with
Yeah.
MS, right? That,
Yeah.
for me, that all of that stuff is very inspirational. I think what you've really got to focus on the fact that no two people's journey is the same. So, like,
Yeah.
find those people on those social platforms, and find them so that you can learn from them, and that you can be inspired. And every now and then you get a little bit of hope because somebody was poorly and now they're living well
Yeah.
with their MS. But I think you can't compare, so I think as soon as somebody goes, oh my God, like, she was all right, she was walking one day, now she isn't, and then everyone just, I guess people just fall victim mode again and just
Yeah.
think, oh my God, this is what's going to happen to me. But that isn't true. And I think that's the stuff that isn't in the textbooks, right?
No,
That's what you
no.
have to find. That's why you
Yeah.
have to hear from real people with
Yeah.
real stories of what MS really is, because the textbook version doesn't,
It doesn't justify it at all.
it doesn't all.
And what you said is, I think, one of the key things, and it's funny, like it's already five, well, here, but like we didn't talk about any of the questions I had here, but the conversation I think is even better because it's descriptive of what the actual progression that people go through is, right? And like the funny thing is, it's so different, and like one of the reasons at first I also distanced myself from the MS community in Montreal because I got insanely depressed talking to them at the time. They were telling me, oh, the doctor gave me this. The doctor said I couldn't do this. And I remember the doctor at first told me, don't stress your nervous system out because we don't know if it can affect your MS more. It can like further influence it and stuff like that. But then I was just like, but no, like you have to like I have to stress my body out for it to adapt, for it to learn, for it to grow, right? Which is what got me to fitness to help get over the whole
Mm,
MS thing. But that, along with Dr. Terry Walls and seeing her kind of perspective on things, even though not having any money at the time to afford anything she was selling, like it's that perspective on things, the mental clarity, not necessarily clarity, but the mental fortitude to be able to say, yeah, I have MS, but it's not going to win. And like I've like it's one of the reasons like I did start following you on Instagram originally was I was like I love her perspective. It's someone who's again, I was projecting because I didn't speak to you at the time, but I was just like, clearly she believes what I believe, about MS, about fitness, about all these things, and
yeah.
so it's seeing that reflected in your social posts and stuff like that was so inspiring to me. I'm like, okay, I'm not
Thank
alone.
you. Yeah.
Thank you. And I was just like, I'm not alone. There's someone else doing it, and there's someone else who's clearly being successful with it. And like, you have children too, I think, right?
No, I don't.
No?
I don't.
Uh,
It's my niece and nephew.
oh, okay, okay.
I post them a lot. I don't have
Okay.
children. Um, my sister has children, so
Okay.
yeah, I do spend a lot of time with them and stuff, and that's why you probably think I have children. I don't have
Okay.
children, and I do I do think that's why I'm able to train a lot as well. So I think when people say, oh, everyone has 24 hours a day, and
Mm.
I'm sure you can spare an hour to yourself, but actually seeing my sister bring up children, I don't think any mom has an hour to herself. So you know what, I will never go round thinking that people with children have as much
Yeah.
time as me, because they don't. I have no excuses, to be fair. But I think it is difficult when you have children. But it's difficult when you have children. But also, I feel like you look after yourself more when you have children, right? Because then you have a
Yeah.
even bigger reason. So if I had
Yeah.
children now, and actually there might be my niece and nephew, but they have given me even more. Like, they've added to my why, right? My why was always like, MS isn't going to win.
Hmm.
I'm gonna be the fittest and the healthiest that I've ever been, and I'm gonna fight this head on, and I'm gonna be strong, and I'm gonna be in good health. But then they come along, and it's kind of gone, oh yeah, now I've got to do that even more,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Because I got to be the strong auntie. I've got to set an example, got to lead by example. I never want them to see me ill. or think what's wrong with her. In years to come, I hope that if somebody mentioned that's, a school friend of theirs mentioned so and so in their family has got MS, they're able to turn around and say, do you know what, my auntie's got that and she's all
Yeah.
right. You know what? Because she's at the gym and she's training and she's running and she's still, she's working, she does everything.
Yeah.
But it's never like impacted her life in that way. So, I'd want them to have a real positive spin
Yeah.
of MS growing up. But yeah, sorry, I kind of digressed there, but I don't
No
have
worries at all.
children.
Okay.
But you were saying from my social media,
Yeah.
just the fitness part of it and the positivity and stuff is that I just think there's not that much of it. I don't, I guess now I do maybe come across, maybe it's just the algorithm that I do connect with people, living with chronic illnesses and now training. But at the time when I started sharing my journey, I just felt like I didn't know that many people
Yeah.
that were living with, a similar condition and training to that level. Because I think even like when I say to my consultant, like, he's like, oh, so you've been gymming and that, how many times do you go? And I go, well, sometimes I just go every day. And he was like, oh, you do got to be careful, it's almost like I don't know, like no one would really say like, "Oh wow, that's
Yeah.
amazing."
Yeah.
And I said, "But I know what you're thinking. You're probably thinking that's too much, but when it comes to intensity, that's when I know, that's when I got to listen to my body." So I was saying, even if I go
Yeah.
every day, it doesn't mean I'm maximizing the intensity
Yeah.
because I know that probably isn't going to be good for me
Yeah.
in the long run if I'm, compromising my immune system. But I'm going because it it it's been so good for me mentally. Just I didn't actually realize how much I needed it mentally, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So I started I'll be honest, like I started training with a PT once I got diagnosed. And that was, I mentioned it to my employer. He was training with a personal trainer at that time, and he said to me, I'd rather you train with someone I know, don't go to anyone. Like,
Yeah.
John's a great trainer of mine, and I'll speak to him and I'll sort something out. And actually, my employer really helped me out at that time,
Nice. Nice.
connecting me with a really nice personal trainer, but also, financially really supported me on that
Yeah.
journey. And I can never knock them for that because they really did. And if it meant taking time out of work to train, they knew that was going to help me. It was, and so that part of my personal training was a bit of rehabilitation because I needed
Yeah.
to learn to get the strength back in my legs,
Yeah.
regain my balance, all that, regain my confidence, and it really helped with that. So, but it was only like one personal training session a week, but at
Yeah.
that time it was getting me into the groove, and it did really help with my, just the weakness in my legs. It definitely
Yeah.
helped, and definitely regaining my balance. I mean, bless him, he just became my therapist because that's what happens, right? Your
A
personal
hundred
trainer
percent. A hundred
your personal
percent.
trainer then just becomes your therapist. But
Yeah.
I think after, like I said, there was that sort of 8 years of real, just a messy part, like everything, like you're trying to deal with all your
Mm.
emotions and trying to do the research and really learn your body, figure it out. At the same time, you're trying to progress in your career at work. There's just so much going on in that time. And I think I then got to a point where I thought, I'm ready. I want to do more. Like, I think I can push my body more. And,
Yeah.
I really always had a vision for like Harveel, like, that she would look a certain way and stuff. And I just thought, you know what? MS just came in the way of that. And
Yeah.
it kind of just went, oh, that's a dream that you can't fulfill anymore. And that's what I learned to believe. So even though I was, training with a PT, and I just never thought I'd be able to be the girl who goes to the gym, who lifts heavy, who trains, who could have a body, just build muscle and, just transform myself into what, I don't know, make MS look sexy. I didn't think that was possible. But then one of my friends who's an online fitness coach, got in touch with him. That was my brief. I was like, I
Yeah.
need I need to make MS look sexy. Like, you know
Yeah.
what, it does happen to sexy people as well. I just want to look as hot, like I know it's a bit of a
Uh,
vanity brief, but it was like it's the only thing that's gonna make me find
yeah.
myself again and go, you know what, few MS, because
Yeah.
this is who I really am,
Yeah.
and this is who's been lost for all this time, and I just need to find her again, because you know what, I've done the work, and I've done and I'm in a good place, and she just needs to erupt again.
Yeah.
And you know what, he just kind of went, well, if, like, do you believe it's possible? And I was like, I don't know, like, and he was like, yeah, but you got to believe it, like, you got to believe, like, can you visualize her, can you see her? And I said, yeah. And he was like, there you go. Like, we'll make it
Yeah.
happen.
Yeah.
And it was like he understood the assignment, we got it done. And yeah, that has given me so much confidence. It's given me my mojo back. It's helped in so many areas of my life,
Yeah.
not just, the whole, you know, dealing with MS, and, navigating the highs and lows of MS. It's just everything now. I just feel like even my performance at work,
Yeah.
just better relationships, with friends and family, just the way you kind of, I guess, just the way you just handle life, the way
Yeah.
react to certain situations and stuff. It's just really just, it's the fitness isn't just weight loss, and it isn't just an ego boost, but it is so much more. It's
Yeah.
like, it's just given, I guess it's given me my life back. So me, I
Mm-hmm.
feel like at a point it just felt like, oh my God, everything's over. You know, this is it. This is what my life means now. Just got to play it down. I'm not going to be like the rest of them, because you almost go, that's normal, and this is not normal.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
weird, isn't it? But no one
Yeah.
tells you that. Like, no
No.
one says, like, oh, you got MS now, that means you're not normal. You just tell yourself that. Like, you start
Yeah.
believing all these negative things all of a
It's
sudden,
100%.
and you just go, you almost think, I wouldn't be able to travel there, because what if something happened? Like, I wouldn't be able to, oh, like they're saying the heat causes this and that. I couldn't possibly go to a hot, you start,
Yeah.
every time I was booking a holiday and stuff, I was almost ringing my MS nurse going, am I all right to travel here? And
Yeah.
like, she's like, yeah, you're fine. And then you just start going, oh yeah, like, why every move in life am I thinking, shit, like, what about my MS? What about my MS? But I think you'll probably realize this as well, is that when you start hitting the gym, or any sort of movement, because whoever's listening, for them, it could be swimming, it could be running, it
Mm-hmm.
could be, I don't know, kayaking. There's so many sports now, right? Rock
Yeah.
climbing and stuff. Whatever that is so much more than just kind of going, all right, I'm just doing it for a little bit of fitness and stuff. It's everything. It's the making of
Yeah.
you, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's like you're rebuilding yourself, like you.
100%. And like they say fitness is all about pushing past your boundaries and stuff like that, right? What I've kind of, not at first, but like where fitness and MS kind of equates for at me at this point is MS just became another boundary to push past.
Mm.
It became something to push through, to push beyond, so to speak. So like at this point, when I do hit the gym, I am hitting heavy PRs. I am hitting really high weights. I'm pushing myself as far as I can because in my mind, I keep going back to again, I can't say I'm cured of MS, but I keep saying I beat MS, at least for
Yes.
now. And as long as it's beaten today, I'm going to push as hard as I can. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah, of
Yeah,
course. It just that's almost the motivation, isn't it? Because every
yeah,
day is like, I mean, I did it, and I could do it
yeah.
again tomorrow,
A
and I can
hundred
do it
percent.
again the next day. And I think when MS does kind of sometimes show up, I think for me sometimes it will, if I'm not, like, fatigue can be quite
Mhm.
a
Yeah.
one that kind of hits me
It still
every
hits
now
you.
and then.
Yeah,
Oh
yeah,
yeah, and
yeah,
I just think, oh my God, like, I'm gonna have to, like, literally go home and nap today, or I
yeah,
might struggle to get out of bed or something that day. And I still get that, but it's just that it doesn't, I know I can deal with it.
yeah.
I know, like, you know what, this is okay. Like, you know what, I might have just overdone it. I just need a little bit of a rest. I can have a bit of a rest and I'm good again.
Mhm.
Whereas before I'd probably think, all right, here it is. I wonder what this is going to be. How long is it going to last for? Is this the start of something? Oh my God, is it going to be my legs next? Like
Yeah, yeah,
all that kind of stuff. And I think the gym just makes you just go like, it's all right. Like you can,
Yeah.
you just we can handle whatever it is. It's all right.
Yeah.
And I'm going to be back at the gym. You know what? It might be 2, 3 days because I'm under the weather or something, but I can't wait to get back into the gym again. I can't
Yeah.
wait to do some sort of movement or fitness and whatnot. Because I don't know if you yourself, do you find that just by any activity, even if you are under the weather and you can't really go to the gym and work out hard, just by like getting a walk in or something, just some sort of activity
It kind of
does
starts
make
things
you,
up. Yeah.
yeah, just
Yeah.
does make you feel better than just being still. Like I do think my
Yeah.
legs are better moving sometimes than they are just sedentary in a place.
A
Does that make
hundred
sense? Like
percent. A hundred
I think
percent.
that's when I sometimes feel, if I've been sat for too long and then I try and get up, I think sometimes that's when I think like my neural pathways are a little bit like there's a bit of disconnect because they've just
Yeah.
been too sedentary for too long, if that makes
Yeah.
sense. And then that's when I struggle. I get up and I have to think like, oh, am I going to be able to take the next step?
Yeah.
Whereas like if I'm, and if I'm stood in one place in a queue, that's really difficult for me actually, just standing in
Yeah.
a queue. But if I'm like, you know, walking at a steady pace and there's some sort of movement, I'm actually a little bit better for
Mm.
myself. Yeah.
Yeah.
And my legs handle that much better as well.
Oh, well, that's awesome. That's just more reason for you to keep moving, right?
Oh yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
And I totally advocate it now. I've done it. I know, like, obviously before I was just training. It was very light. It was just one PT session a week, and then now I'm training regularly. Sometimes I will be at the gym 7 days a week. I'm not, it might just be like 3 or 4 strength training sessions. The rest might just be like, might do just a core body like circuit and then
Hmm.
a couple of cardio sessions and nothing crazy. Sometimes it's just an incline walk, right?
Yeah.
Sometimes it's
Yeah.
just a straight walk on the treadmill and stuff. So nothing crazy, but I do think that, since that and since pushing my body to its, I'm not saying to its absolute limits, but pushing myself, as far as I've ever gone in
Yeah.
terms of body goals and fitness goals, is that 100% advocate movement for MS, and not just MS, but any sort of, mental or physical health condition anyone
Yeah.
has. I just think like it's it's it can only
Benefit.
benefit
Yeah.
you, yeah. And I just think no one tell you, almost think it's going to be detrimental to your health. You think, oh shit, like if I've got such a condition, sorry, excuse my language, but you think if you got such a condition, you think actually, well, no, you need to rest,
Yeah.
right? You need to rest, and you shouldn't be doing this. You shouldn't be doing this because this is only going to be harmful, because no one's really in the medical profession, they're not really pushing the diet, the exercise, the nutrition
Yeah.
aspect as much as they're pushing the treatment and the
Exactly.
therapies,
And
right? Because
they don't understand the fitness or nutrition aspect of things
they
as
don't
much as
they always
yeah.
say like we don't know
Yeah.
enough about it,
Yeah.
but come on, everyone does know enough about it. You got to know, like, that you got to know. Like, what we do know is that there's no like, there's no sort of detriment of
Yeah.
like keeping fit. Do you know what I mean? Like, this,
Yeah.
it's never really harmed anyone. I think if you're if you're going crazy and you're never listening to your body and you're pushing your body to some
Like
other level, like
David Goggins.
extremities, that's it, yeah.
Yeah.
They're extreme, but I think
Yeah.
that's very rare. And I
Yeah.
think if people just listen to those kind of podcasts a couple of times and think they can match that, then that's very different. That's silly as well. Then you're not listening to. But if you're listening to your body and you're going at your body's pace, I think it can only benefit you. But yeah, they're really, I know people talk about fitness today more than they ever have done
Yeah.
before because of social media, because of
Well,
that
aesthetics.
the knowledge, yeah, and the
Yeah.
knowledge they have, through TV, through podcasts, books, whatever. We're exposed to it so
Hmm.
much now, influencers, fitfluencers, and everything. People are, but still, I still think people ain't talking about it enough and promoting it enough for people with health conditions. And I think there's a lot of people that probably listen to it. And if they if they feel like it's not them or they can't be asked, like CBA, they just kind of go and on to the next and on to the next. But no one is saying, when I post my stuff, I'm not saying do it and do it my way and you should be training as much as me.
No,
All I'm saying is like
go for a
move,
walk.
move, guys.
Yeah.
Do 5 minutes. That's all I want to say. But I can't keep repeating that every day.
Yeah.
Saying, guys, hi, yeah, I'm at the gym today. And I think if you're not feeling up to it, but just get up and do 5 minutes. But honestly, that's all it is. It's 5 minutes. Because the reality is the day you do 5 minutes, you're just gonna go, well, 5 minutes go really quickly.
Yeah.
Shall I do another minute?
Yeah.
Shall I just do another 5 minutes? The
Yeah.
reality is
Okay, so we're back. We had a bit of a technical difficulty where the studio just decided to kick us out and stop recording. But in light of that, we are going to end it at this point. So I'm going to let Harveel talk to her heart's content about what her message, what her
Oh God, if
raison
you let
d'être
me
is.
carry on
And,
chatting, I'll chat
okay,
forever.
okay,
We'll have to do another.
120 seconds.
Yeah.
And absolutely, I
David
want to
has
do
also
that.
David has also mentioned to me that he never got to ask me one question. One question that he had planned that I've just basically been waffling on. Sorry, but I think yeah, as we're wrapping it up, I think what I just want to say is that um for anyone who's got MS or any chronic condition and is thinking, I'm not sure if fitness is for me. It is. It's for everyone. You don't have to train like the next person. Like I said, learn from people, seek that inspiration and be hopeful in your journey. Believe that you can do it, but just find something that works for you and start small and build it up. So, 5 minutes one day, 10 minutes another day, and your ability. So, I know different people are at different stages with their MS, but there'll be something, even if it's just your upper body, you can do some upper body strength exercises. There's a lot of like seated exercises and stuff that you
100%.
can find on YouTube. And a lot of the MS charities, wherever your local MS charities are, they've got something for everyone. So the way I want to end it is to say, if you're newly diagnosed, you know what, it's rough. You're going to go through many, lows in that journey, but you will get through them. The lows are just lessons. You're going to absolutely learn something while you're up there. You're going to come back stronger. The rule is that you're not giving up. You're not going to quit. You're not going to let MS win. And you know what? If there's anything that that I found that, the gym, the fitness, any sort of activity I get is like my sanctuary. I hope, somebody else finds that as well. And like you have, David. So I would say stay active, get some movement in your life. It's not just going to help you physically, it's going to help you mentally too. Movement is medicine. It 100% is. Even if you are taking, I'll never say to someone, and I know there's a lot of information out there that you shouldn't take the conventional medicine. That's your own choice. That's
Yeah.
not for me to make. But what I do believe is that if you have a care team that's helping you with any sort of therapies, that doesn't mean to say you can't help yourself, right? They're only
Hmm.
helping you at a certain time. It's a limited time. You might go on drugs for a while. You might be taking a pill a day. You might be on injectables. I don't know. You might see your consultant once a year. You have an MRI once a year. Well, what are you doing for the rest of that time?
Yeah.
Right? You got to
Yeah.
help yourself in that because the MS is still there. It
Yeah.
doesn't just come out on the day you're going to see your consultant, right?
Yeah.
Or for those few minutes that you're taking your pill and then MS is gone again. It's always there. So, you know what? I do believe there's a lot of holistic things that are there for us in reach that we can absolutely take hold of and could only be beneficial to us. And as the main topic today is about fitness, then that's what I'm saying, movement, activity, gym, find your sport, whatever it is, and just listen to your body. And just honestly, you will like just sticking to it. It's never an overnight success. Whatever, nothing happens overnight.
Yeah.
You don't go from dark to light overnight. You don't go from bad to good overnight. You don't just go into feeling sick to then feeling well overnight. There's that middle part. You got to do the work. It's a bit
Yeah.
messy, but as long as you just keep your eyes on the prize and you're just thinking, you know what, I'm not going to let MS win. This is me versus me every day.
Yeah.
And you just challenge yourself. You don't compare your journey to someone else's. you know what? I think we got this. I
Yeah.
think we got this. I think we can keep ourselves well. And I think almost like MS, and I think I've said this on a blog for the MS Society before, it's almost my secret weapon. MS is my secret weapon because MS has made me the person I am today.
It's a hell of a motivator.
Yeah. So yeah, so thank you so much. Like, I'm sorry because I probably digress loads.
Oh my God, no.
Must have waffled on about so many things, but it's been really nice. I think, it's never easy talking about it, but it gets easier every
Yeah.
time I do talk about it, if that makes sense.
Uh,
And I just think anyone that's listening, all I ever want to do is go, I just want them to walk away with some sort of positivity. I want their takeaway to be, you know what, I might have MS, but MS hasn't got me. Like, I can do this, I can get through this. And, maybe MS might fuel another desire inside you. You don't know, right? You don't know sometimes. It makes you reevaluate your life. These curveballs make you look at life in a different way. You start
100%.
you
Yeah.
start valuing your life in a different way. And sometimes I always think maybe that's the day I really started living. Sometimes I do think to myself, actually, maybe I wasn't living before MS.
Hmm.
Although I probably thought I was, and like now I was like, my life is over.
Yeah.
But actually, maybe that's the day I started living because it's when I learned the most about myself, my body, my life, the future, and what what life is really all about, Because there's just so much noise out there now, and
100%.
people have forgotten what truly matters. And let's be honest, like there's nothing bigger than your health. Everyone
Yeah.
knows that. That when your health is on the line, it's the
It's your
biggest.
priority. Yeah.
It's the pri-
So I'm gonna cut us off there for our next conversation, but I will say one thing. If you want to pay attention more of Harveel's story, read her blog and stuff like that, check out the links below. I'm gonna put her Instagram and her blog.
Oh,
She writes
thank
for,
you.
yeah, she writes for, you write for the MS Society in the UK,
Yeah,
correct?
MS
Yeah.
Society UK.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So yeah, check that down below. And also thank you for bringing sexy back to whatever you wanted to do it with, and keep pushing, keep doing your thing. And yeah, hopefully we'll have Harveel back and we can talk about how she's used fitness to help her become a marketing whiz.
Yeah,
All right.
yeah, definitely. Yeah. Thank you so much, David. And,
Thank you.
all the best in your journey as well. You're doing really well.
Much
It's been nice
obliged.
to connect with you on social media and yeah, and you're inspirational. I didn't know you had been living with it for 20 years and you're living really well with it. And I hope that continues, that only continues. So I wish you well in your journey and whatever you're, achieving to do with Fitness Beast. So yeah,
Yeah.
keep doing your thing. But yeah, hopefully speak to you soon. And I can't
Yeah,
wait for the podcast to drop. It's going to be a
definitely.
World MS Day one, right?
Yeah.
World MS
Yeah.
Day.
Yeah. I'll
We're
let
going to
it
go
up.
big. We're going to go big.
100%. See you later, Harveel.
Take care. Thank
Bye.
you. Bye. Bye.